Hi, welcome. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. And today we're interviewing the administrative assistant to the principal at Roosevelt Elementary School named Miss Lisa Jennings. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Max. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. What is your schedule like when at work?
Well, typically I get to work an hour early before I have to start, so I get there at 6:30. And as one of your previous guests you interviewed, Elise Arnoldi, I get there an hour early so that I can walk. So she and I walk the building and just to get our steps in the morning and have conversation. Then my official day starts at 7:30 and I work till about 3:45.
When did you start working at Roosevelt Elementary School?
Well, it's been 27 and a half years now, so it's been a minute.
What was it like to apply to be an office staff there?
Well, it actually kind of came to me in a strange way. I was a paraprofessional at the time, a special ed para, and loved what I was doing. And the building secretary was leaving to go to another building. And so she stopped me and she said, "Well, you should apply for this job." And it's like, well, why would I want to do that? I love what I'm doing. And she said, "Well, you don't have to go out in the winter for recess and bus duty, and the pay's a little higher." So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. So that was back in, I think I started officially in 96. And then in 97, I took the secretary's job and then moved from building secretary up to principal secretary. So applying for the secretarial position was kind of easy because they already knew me. So that kind of helped. The principal knew me because I already worked there. And I got the job there with Paul Lipson was our principal at the time. I had been volunteering so much time in the school. Everybody'd say, "Lisa, you should work here and get paid for it." And I said, "Well, if it ever happens, I won't turn it down." So I was very fortunate that the year my son went to kindergarten full time, there was a position open as a special ed parent. I was given that job.
What was the interview process like to be the special ed para?
It was pretty low key, not very well, it was stressful for me because as somebody who'd been a stay-at-home mom for several years, it was the first time I'd interviewed in a while. But it was Dr. Lipson and I think maybe about three other people, teaching staff and a special ed teacher that I was going to be working with. So of course, anytime you interview, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think it was only maybe three or four people, so not a big deal, but enough again for somebody who was coming off being a stay-at-home parent. Was a little intimidating for me, but I already knew a lot of the people that were in the interview, at the interview table from volunteering there at the school. So that made it feel comfortable. So they really did make it easy for me, even though I went into it feeling a little stressed. By the time I was done, I felt pretty good about it.
What was the interview process like to be the office staff, not the principal's
Well, yeah, so
assistant?
I talked to the two secretaries who were working there at the time, and they said, when they said, "Do you want this job?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I considered going for it." She kind of coached me on what to say. She said, "They're going to ask you, these questions. They're going to say, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?" And so kind of go into it prepared. And it was only the principal and one other secretary at the time that interviewed me. So I didn't actually know I was going to be interviewing that particular day. I had applied for it. I was upstairs working with kids in the classroom. It was a Friday. Had my Roosevelt Husky, my Roosevelt Husky sweatshirt on, so not dressed the nicest for an interview. When they called up and said, "Hey, do you want to come down and do an interview?" It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not dressed for this. It's casual Friday. So I went down, and obviously it's people I'd already worked with, so it was kind of a no-brainer, kind of easy to do. So not too painful. That one was pretty easy. And then for my current position, I didn't really even have to interview. I was already the building secretary, the principal secretary, administrative assistant was moving on. The current principal looked at me. She goes, "So do you want this job?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do I have to interview you?" And I said, "Well, you've already been working with me. So I think that's kind of the interview process." And that was about it. So she gave me the position.
What inspired you to work in education?
Well, it was actually, I think just by all the time I volunteered there at the building, I loved it and realized, again, from coming off from being a stay-at-home mom, that it felt good to be utilized in some really helpful way. So I, at first, just started out working with the kids in the classroom, and sometimes they'd ask me to volunteer in the lunchroom or at recess, and I was happy to do it. And then it's like, wow, this is really a lot of fun. I love working with the kids. I love that in elementary school, especially, kids love you unconditionally. I mean, they just, you get the hugs, you get the hellos and the waves all the time. And so it's like, wow, this is really what I think I want to do. And then being a mom of two young boys, knowing what the schedule was to have summers off and weekends off and holidays, um, it was just another perk added to it. So it was kind of a no-brainer in when that position opened up to say that that's what I'd like to do.
Were you volunteering when it was a high school or when it was elementary school?
No, it was definitely preschool through fifth grade. So we had pre, Head Start, and K through 5.
What's the easiest thing about your job?
Oh, the easiest. I don't know, I guess the student interaction part, that just feels like it comes naturally for me. So I don't really think that much of my job is really super difficult. Is it time consuming? It can get crazy, yes. But the easiest is probably just interacting with the kids when they need something because it just, I feel comfortable with the kids. I try to make them feel comfortable with me. And since I love them, I'm not forcing those feelings or behaviors the way I treat them or if I want to joke with them. So I think just the interaction with the kids is probably the easiest part.
What's the hardest thing about your job?
Oh, probably when it comes to the budget parts and ordering and all of those things, and the part of it that is not the people part so much, but the logistics of everything. And again, it's not hard. It's just more time consuming, a little bit more stressful. But um, again, I lean toward the people part of the job with the staff and the parents and the kiddos. That makes my job why I love it so much. So it's all the little details that come along with it that might be a little bit more challenging.
What's your favorite thing about your job?
Oh gosh. I guess if I just were to say one thing in general, it'd have to be the people. And that goes from the staff that I work with to the students, to their families. A lot of the kids that we have now, I was their secretary when they were when their parents were there. So I'm now getting that other generation. And it's really cool because a lot of these people I've known them for a really long time. And when they come in, I know them, we're on first name basis. Mom will come in and I knew her when she was a student. Sometimes they have a hard time calling me by my first name, which I encourage them to do. And they say, I just can't do it. You were Mrs. Jennings when I was here. And I always encourage them. I love that first name basis relationship with people. And obviously some of the kids will call me Miss Lisa, Mr. Jennings, whatever. I'm all right with that too. And it's definitely the people from the staff down to the little kiddos that I love.
Sounds like you have more than one favorite other than the people basis. What are those
I
other favorites?
well, I love feeling like I help people. I think I am given the opportunity to be of assistance to people more than I realized I could be. When I get a phone call from somebody and they need something, I will turn over every leaf to get them an answer. I'm not one of those that likes to say, let me transfer you to somebody else, or I don't know how to help you. I really like to be able to give assistance to people. Um, I give assistance to people in terms of holiday help too, and groceries and clothing. If they've come to know that they can trust me or come to me if parents need anything, if they get into any financial hardship. So I think that aspect of helping people is, the second part that I would say I really love.
What is your least favorite thing about your job or least favorite?
Um, Least favorite. Well, again, probably getting into like all the finance part of it, the particulars of that, and managing the money because I was never really a math person myself. So I had to become that. And I had to learn how when you see a number that's negative, it's actually a positive and all of those things that come with bookkeeping. So that would be my least favorite. Other than that, um, there's hectic times of the year, like right when the school year starts and right when the school year ends are pretty hectic. And I feel like sometimes I'm juggling a lot at one time. Nothing I can't handle, but that's, I think the least favorite is when you just feel so stressed that there's just a lot falling on you to handle at the time. But other than that, I really don't have many complaints about my job. I really love what I do.
What is the most stressful part about your job?
I think worrying about the kids and, making sure they get on the right bus, making sure that if we got that call to make sure that David doesn't ride the bus home, that I get that message to him. I never want to do anything that would ever put a child in harm in any way. So I think that would probably be the one thing that I worry about the most. I would never want to make a mistake and put a kid on a bus who wasn't supposed to, and nobody's home for them. So that I really put a lot of effort into making sure that those kinds of things I'm error free, because it could have a big consequence, and I wouldn't want anything like that to ever happen.
How do you deal with stress when you have it?
Well, I have a lot of really good friends that I work with, and sometimes just talking it out. I try to switch up my lunch rotations that I go on so that I can spend time, because we have three different lunch cycles that our staff eats over. So if I'm really feeling like somebody I got to talk to, I'll ask the other secretary. It's like, do you mind if I go to lunch with this group today? Because I know that there's a couple of friends in there that I can talk to kind of de-stress. Sometimes you just need somebody else to hear what it is you're stressing about, and they can kind of talk you off the ledge.
What is your advice for others on how to deal with anxiety, stress, or other mental illnesses?
Well, I think you got to find something that you love, and then maybe if you're really stressed out, do it. Like I'm a big walker. I love to hike. People always tease me about how many steps I get at Roosevelt. My goal during the school year is like 14. So I never
Nice.
sit. I have a stand-up desk. I only sit when I go to lunch. So I think for me, like movement and getting around and talk. So what I tell people, if you're stressed out, find something that you know that you love to do and go do it, whether it's go take a walk, go read a book, whatever it is that brings you joy when you're super stressed out. Kind of good to go find something that can take your mind off it for a bit.
What is it like to be an office staff?
I love it. Um, it's pretty busy. It's pretty hectic in there. We got a lot of movement in and out, which is why I love being in elementary. I kind of like the chaos. Some days can be a lot more chaotic than others. It can be noisy. It can be busy. There can be kids that are sick in the sick room while a teacher's standing at your desk and needing you. So, but that's what I love. The times that I think dislike the most are days like Friday when I started, and today when I'm like the only one in the building and it's super quiet. Principal's in and out because of meetings. And I prefer, like, since I like that people aspect of it, it gets a little quiet for me. So I do love the chaos and the activity that goes on in an elementary school office.
Do you ever see yourself moving on to a different elementary school in the district or the middle school or high school, or maybe even do an office job at central office in the future?
In terms of going to central office, I don't think I'd want to, only because of that. Like I said, loving the chaos and the noise. And I've been to central office many times, and it's pretty quiet over there in some of those offices. I like the people stopping by my desk. I like the parents coming in. I like the kids coming in. In terms of, do I see myself working in another school? I guess my future is unknown, with not knowing if Roosevelt's going to be open for 1 or 2 years. I don't know what will happen to me when Roosevelt does close. So I guess I probably do see myself working somewhere else in the district. Obviously, I'm going to stay with Roosevelt as long as Roosevelt is open. And then I guess it will be, we'll see what the future holds for me.
What are your roles as an office staff?
Oh, I handle all the sub situations, like getting subs for classrooms. I handle field trips. I handle the finances, scheduling for different things that come up, picture day, and I schedule all of those. I'm the liaison for a lot of our groups that churches and clubs that help our families for the holidays. I do that. Uh, oh my gosh, I can't even stop to think about all the calling people for interviews, making phone calls if it's something the principal needs, reaching out to families. So there's so many things that you do within a given day. Some of it is repetitive, like answering the phones and dealing with kids as they need it. So it kind of changes on a day-to-day basis, but there's some things that seem like they're just consistent. Ordering things for teachers. A teacher comes in and says that they need, spiral notebooks. Well, it's me that they come to, or hey, can you see if this sub can work for me on Tuesday? Then, those kinds of things I have to jump in and handle.
What are some of the trainings you have to have for your job?
Well, I have received training as needed. So if we get new software, they'll have a short training. In terms of getting my position in the beginning, there was nothing that was required. Didn't have to have any type of degree or specific. They wanted you to know back in the day, they used to call it word processing skills. So that's what they used to call it when I hired in. And so there was no training that was required, certification or degrees. And then now, as things come up, like I said, so as you know, because you're very techy, as technology changes, software changes, then they'll say we need to have a quick meeting for training, and then we'll usually go spend a couple of hours, and then we're set to handle whatever it is they've thrown at us. Keep up with technology. I want to stay in the game like everybody else.
Who is your favorite or favorite to work with?
Oh, there's too many. I would get in so much trouble, Max, if I handpick people. Really, I have, and I think Miss Arnoldi said this when you interviewed here. There's a few of us we refer to as the OGs, the originals that were there for a while. That some of them I've worked with for over 20 years. Like Elise Arnoldi, I've worked with over 20 years. Christy Law, over 20 years. Carrie Roth, who's now moving to the middle school, over 20 years. And then but yet we can have somebody who came in brand new last year, and I love her now. So I I am very lucky. Roosevelt is a really special building, as you know, as a former Husky. Roosevelt's a really special building, and I love my coworkers, so I could never in a million years name a favorite.
How did you pick being an office staff over all the career options out there?
Well, it was kind of ended up in my lap. Like I said, when I was volunteering there, I never considered working at a school. Figured that once our kids were in school full time, that I would get a job. I didn't when our oldest son went to school, it was only half day kindergarten. So I couldn't do much then. And then we had our second son, and then it changed to full day kindergarten. So my plan was always, once both our boys are in school full time, I'll find a job. I didn't have a degree that I could use in anything. So I figured I'm just going to find a job while the kids are in school. So it really worked out great by me volunteering there in the building and them seeing me and knowing that I was showing up pretty much every single day just to volunteer and not get paid for it. That kind of spoke for my dedication, and um, they knew me, they got to know me. And so the job kind of came to me. It's like, Lisa, we have an opening. It's like, I'll take it.
What are you working on right now?
Well, at home, organizing our basement. It's a big job. And I've let it go for far too long. And our boys are grown. So kind of going through their toys and snapping pictures and sending them to them, seeing if I can donate them or if they want me to keep them. At work is ordering supplies for staff. It's that time of year when we need to order math books and school supplies, the teachers need. So that's my biggest job when I get back to school, is the first thing that I start is getting some purchase orders done so I can get the supplies in the teachers' hands when they get back.
What are your hobbies?
I love hiking. It's my most favorite of all. I love camping, mostly anything if it's outdoors. My husband and I are big hikers, campers, kayakers, and snowshoers. We did a big camping trip up in the UP this summer. We do a lot. We do a ton of hiking, and as long as I'm outside and I'm in the woods, that's when I'm happiest.
What is your career history and roles?
History, not too exciting in terms of history. I mean, I've had, like I said, 27 and a half years at Roosevelt. Prior to that, I was a manager at McDonald's way back in the day when I met my now husband. It's been a minute, back in the 80s. And other than that, I worked at that position, stopped for a while to have my family, and then found this job at Roosevelt. And that's been pretty much of my work history. Of anything major is my 27 and a half years there at the school.
What is your education?
So I went to OCC after high school. I started there, then transferred to Oakland University. And sorry to say, I did not graduate. I had met my now husband at the time, and we were dating. And my dad said, you have to have a job, and while you go to school, and you have to pay for school. So we're trying to juggle all of those things. I decided to stop going to school, so I dropped out from Oakland University. I was going to say at one point, because I was thinking about this, I thought if Max asked me this, like, what's my education? I thought I kind of regret dropping out of college. And I thought, no, I don't. I was going to college to become a nurse. Part of the way through, when I realized it was too much to juggle, I thought, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can stick a needle in somebody. I don't know, because I'm too much empathy to, I just don't think I can do it. Had I followed that path, I would have never made it to the position I'm in today. So I was thinking I kind of regret dropping it, because years ago I used to say I regret that I dropped out of college to get married and then to get a job. And I look back at it now and I think I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for that choice. So for me, it's been a while. That was a long time ago. I graduated high school in 82. So that was quite a while ago. I made those decisions. But because of the way that my journey ended up, I have no regrets.
What is your favorite part of the school?
I do love the layout of our building. Now I feel like I get to see the kids a lot more than I did um, previously, the way that was set up, in the three-story building, because a lot of times if I'm doing a lap around the building or something, I get to interact with more of the kids. So I do like the layout of the school. We have a lot more space for storage. I love my big office. Um, and again, just the people, that's the best part of my school. Can't say enough about the people that work there and the kids that come there and the parents that bring them.
I saw you won School Support Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did it feel like when you were given the plaque to see?
Well, it was a total surprise. It felt really good. I happened to be in the lounge. My principal tricked me because I knew that Miss Wood was getting recognized. So he said, "Why don't you be in there when she gets her award, so that you can take pictures of her?" So I thought, "Yeah, I'll be in there. That'll be great." So they walked in. We were in the staff lounge having lunch, and then when they gave her the award, and they go, "Wait, we're not done," and I was totally caught off guard. Um, it was a tremendous surprise. It felt really good for me to know that my principal acknowledged what I do and that he appreciates that, and to feel acknowledged and appreciated is huge. So it was pretty special. I was pretty proud of that moment.
What does it feel like to be Support Teacher of the Year?
It's a lot of pressure. um, it felt good. I look at that plaque is out in the hallway, and it makes me proud. I guess that's what it feels like. It makes me proud to think that I feel like I'm very dedicated to my school. Roosevelt is a huge part of my life. Huge. I've got family and then Roosevelt. So that, to me, it's such a big part of my life. So to be acknowledged for doing something that I love and comes easy to me, it's like icing on the cake. It's pretty special.
Well, very glad you won the award. It's
Thank you.
very well deserved.
Well, thank you, Max.
You're welcome. I would also like to thank you for joining. I had a lot of fun and have a great rest of your night.
All right. Thank you so much, Max.
You're welcome.